I'm looking at all these different races, and one comes up, number one, the hardest race in the world, Badwater 135. 135-mile race through Death Valley. I'm like, that sounds fucking nuts. But it didn't describe that it was like a couple day race. I'm thinking, okay, that has to be like a fucking 7-day race. Because I don't know people who run like that. So I end up calling Chris Kosman up. Chris Kosman is the race director of Badwater. And he lives out here in California. And he's like, hey man. I'm like, hey Chris. I call him up in the first conversation. I actually have all the emails in my book for me, him going back. He's a fucking stickler, man, to tell you that. So I call him up and say, hey man, I'm gonna do this race. He's like, have you ever run 100 miles before? I'm like, no. He goes, well, to get my race, you have to do a 100-mile race. And you gotta do 100 miles in 24 hours or less. There was only 2 more races I could do before the deadline dropped. And so I'm like, he goes, you live in San Diego, right? I'm like, yeah. This was Wednesday. I call him up on a Wednesday morning. He goes, well, there's a race on Saturday. And it's called the San Diego One Day at Hospitality Point in San Diego, where you run around a 1-mile track for 24 hours and see how many miles you can get. So I'm like, fuck it, man, this guy's kind of calling me out. I'm gonna get this shit done. I'm a SEAL, I'm a badass, been through Ranger school and shit. I got this. Hardest thing I did my entire life, dude, was this one race.